Okay, for my video essay, I'm going to start with the character jumping over a ledge. So in terms of staging, I wanted to capture as many of the animation principles as I could. But the side view was also determined by the actual video reference selected, which was a side view, so obviously that sort of dictated a bit. I positioned the character in the center of the screen and then experimented with the zoom to sort of find what I thought was the best position and the best view. The side view was, good for displaying strong lines of action, I thought as well. For appeal, in terms of an animation context, appeal means anything that a person likes to see. For each pose, I tried to keep it simple, clear, and maintain strong lines or expression where I could. The goal was to clearly communicate the intended movement and make it interesting to watch at the same time. So to achieve this, I incorporated varying speed and timing on the arm swings and also the rise and falling sections, adding exaggerated movements on the stretching out just before the jump and on the arm. Swings also added to the animation's overall appeal when compared to not having them. For timing and spacing of the frames was incorporated for the jump. The spacing is determined by how much space or movement is between each frame to the next. When the character is at the highest point in the jump, more frames are added to create a slow floating movement, and at the start of the jump, more spacing between the frames and less frames overall creates a faster jumping up movement, and again on the downward fall to the ground. This gives the effect that the character is moving faster as they jump from the ground upward, and then they slow down approaching the peak of the jump, and then faster again as the character falls back to the ground. This keeps the effect of gravity in mind. For ease in and out, an object does not have a constant speed, so during a movement, an object does not have a constant speed during a movement, and in this animation's case, one example of this would be the arm swings. As the arms swing back, they gradually increase at the start of the movement, then slow down as they approach the end of the movement. This effect is called ease in and ease out. Moving holds, where a key pose is held for a long time, but in a way that keeps the character looking alive and not dead. They can be described as a way to hold a key pose for a long time without the character looking dead. In this animation, this is incorporated after the character has completed his jump. Next, squash and stretch. Squash and stretch, when you apply, you need to maintain the shape's original volume, and the shape only changes shape by stretching and squashing. I applied squash when the character makes contact with the ground. This is after the jump, and I use stretch where the character is just about to launch into the jump. When the character begins falling again, the stretch is increased gradually at each pose until it makes contact with the ground. Exaggeration. I added exaggeration to the movements and also to move away from a realistic jump, which is kind of what I had after the first sort of pass. And this was to make it look more cartoony. So I exaggerated the key actions and poses to help make the animation more readable and noticeable. I increased the jump height and exaggerated the speed and timing of the jump as well. Anticipation. I used some anticipation just before the character jumps upward into the jump, and as the character crouches downward and swings their arms fully backward before changing direction into the jump. I added a slight pause to simulate a build-up of jumping power pre-jump as well. For arcs, arching movements or arcs were used in the swinging arms, again, that followed an arching movement similar to that of a pendulum. They were also used in the jump path that the character follows. This is also sort of an arching movement. The other place this was used was in the arching movement of the feet as the character walks, lifting their feet, and they follow sort of an arching movement. Overlapping action. For overlapping action, the spacing is more than just close together. It's actually an overlapping action. And the spacing is determined by how much space or movement is between each frame to the next. This is applied in the jumping movement as the character approaches the peak of the jump and just following it. The frames overlap to create a slowing effect through the peak of the jump movement. And lastly, drag and follow through. This animation principle refers to when things move. They don't all stop at the same time. Some parts will stop first and then others will follow through. This can be best seen in the arm swing. I keep using the arm swinging as an example. As the arms are pulled one way, they are being dragged, and then as they pass the point where they bend, the arm swings them up, and then follow through is applied there.